Welcome back to Tom Dave's Live. I'm super excited. Today we have Bruce Hendler. Bruce, how are you today?
I'm just doing great, Tom. Glad to be here and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Bruce is my cycling coach, as well as many other uh, cyclists and even pro cyclists. So I just thought I would jump on here with Bruce. And Bruce, can you share a little bit about yourself?
I can, no problem. I'm pretty good at that. So I am a cycling coach. I do a lot of things. I own athletic camps in Folsom. I've been doing this now for 20 years. It's been amazing how quickly it's gone and how much I enjoy it. Athletic Camps does coaching for both cyclists and triathletes. And we also do a lot of bike fitting, performance testing. We do travel. We go to Italy and we go to Oregon, taking riders to experience new places. And just absolutely love what I do and plan on keep on doing it for a while.
Absolutely. Well, and I know that you're an avid cyclist as well. Let's talk a little bit about your cycling history.
Sure.
When did you start cycling? And let's chat about that.
Sounds good. So I actually started my last year in college, which was a long time ago. I think like a lot of cyclists, I started because I was hurt running too much. And a buddy of mine convinced me to get on a bike and sort of created Frankenstein's monster at that point because I've never looked back. Um, love the bike, have been riding literally now for about 40 years. I raced for 20 years and attained a Cat 1 level. Since 2001, been operating athletic camps and really still try to ride as much as I can, mainly because I love it and just think that the area that we live in, as you know, is absolutely phenomenal. And just basically want to, share my passion with as many people as I can get to enjoy it with me.
Well, like you, I used to be a runner, a triathlete. I ran one marathon, one and done. But I'm also a snow skier and blew out my knee. And my orthopedic surgeon said, "You know what? I think you're done running." So the
That's
only time I
common.
run now is when someone's chasing me.
That's right. It's very common. And you know something, Tom, you'll probably notice this too. Every time there's rehabilitation taking place, whether you see it like an NFL or an NBA or whatever, they're all sitting there on bikes. So it's the greatest sport in the world.
Right? So I started riding mostly road bike, but I also have a couple of mountain bikes. And I heard about Bruce, and we connected a couple of years ago. And he's helped me with my training, my cycling, accountability. I do the death ride every year, which is definitely something you need to train for. But
Absolutely.
well, Bruce, and I love the motivational quotes that you share with me. And it really made me think, you know what? There's so many corollaries with business and with life, with cycling and coaching. So could you share some of those corollaries with our viewers?
Absolutely. Um, this is something that we talk a lot about with different riders and different athletes of all levels, whether they're just beginning or they're professionals. Professionals need to discuss this kind of stuff too, because it's so important no matter what level, whether you're beginning or at the highest end of the sport. To me, it always comes back to a simple question, and that is ultimately, what is your goal? It's everyone's goal is different. Some people may not know their goals. That's why it's good to have a good coach to discuss that, to help them determine what's realistic for them, what they're able to do, what's manageable in their life, because they have so many things that are going on. But it ultimately starts with a goal. That goal can be super simple. And the other analogy I like to throw at that is when you're discussing with an athlete in that goal, one of the great analogies is something like Google Maps. If you're going to go somewhere and you're sitting at home, you mark in the place that you're going to go, you mark in the start location, and you plan a route, correct? And that Google Maps takes you to that location. Well, coaching with athletes is very similar. You have to have a starting point, you have to have an end point, and you have to have a way to get there. And that's what coaching helps you do.
I love that. Well, and the same way, I mean, if you're going to climb Mount Everest, there's a number of things that you're going to need. You're going to need the gear, you're going to need the clothing, you're going to need all of the support. And I think it would be a good idea to have a Sherpa too.
Yeah, that's right. A good guide. And, when you talk about what is the analogy with business? Well, it's identical. I mean, it's almost identical. It's just a different arena. You have to have a starting point. You have to have a passion for what you're doing. You have to have a roadmap to where you want to go. You're not just winging it. You're not just out there winging it. Your business is not just winging it. You have a specific plan, and which changes and changes all the time, as you well know also. But being prepared and understanding where you want to go and how you're getting there is super important to the success.
Absolutely. And then what have you found is similar with the top athletes and their mindset? What type of a mindset have you experienced that the top athletes have?
Another good question, because that whole question is asked as to why are they at the top of their game? Why are they that good? What makes them different than everybody else? And it's obviously not one thing. It's a lot of things, but probably the most common trait amongst those athletes, well, there's two things. One, and just like in business, they understand what hard work is. There's no way around it. Nothing comes easy. You have to be willing to work hard and have a passion for what you're doing, right? I mean, it's really that important. The other thing is they have a way of brushing off the times that go bad, learn from that, and move forward. And one of the other analogies that I always use with my athletes, and I try to apply to my own business, is it's like the stock market. There's always going to be ups and downs, but you generally want the trend to go upward. And you're always going to have times that are not going that well. And it's up to the athlete and the business owner to keep your eye on the goal, keep fighting, keep learning, and moving forward.
Absolutely. And I mean, for example, I use the example quite often. The jet that's going to fly from San Francisco to New York, it's actually only on course 10% of the time. It's correcting, but it still reaches its goal. So I think that's a great point that you brought up, because we do go through ups and downs, and we go through those cycles. And, it's when, because we are going to experience some failure. And so it's what we do with that and how quickly we respond to that as well. So let's talk about a few of haven't you coached some high level athletes and some pro athletes?
I have coached a number of high level athletes. I've tested a lot of high level athletes. I've had a couple of yellow jerseys in the office doing VO2 testing with them. I've worked with a variety of national level athletes, national champions, a lot of riders that have gone to Europe. And I've worked with a lot of just masters level athletes, people just like you and me that really just want to improve given what their, what arena that they're in, what their commitment can be, and just trying to get little things out of their life that they just didn't have before. So it's all different levels. And working with the top level is honestly, it's not that big of a difference than any level that you work with, because they still have problems. They still have questions. They still have to learn a lot, more so than people think. It's funny. A lot of people think that, for example, pro bike racers don't need bike fits. Oh, yes, they do. They need bike fits just as much as anybody else. Right. So literally working with a high level is a great experience, and you learn a lot from what they're doing. But that's another thing. And again, throughout business, we learn from our customers. We learn from the people that we work with. That's our greatest education, is the experience that we get working with these people and working with their different problems and their different issues and their different goals.
Well, that's so true. And one of my questions, one of the things, to be honest, that I've always struggled with is my pain threshold. I mean, I'm out grinding it out, training for the death ride or at the death ride. And I see these guys that they blow by me. And I'm like, man, this guy must have a high pain threshold. So how do you push through that, whether mentally or physically, to suffer?
It's a really good question. It's hard to compare to other people, right? Because we all are our own self. We all have our own places that we've started and where we have to get to. Everyone has a different starting point. And honestly, probably the best thing that you can do is learn about yourself. And that's what a good coach will help you do. A good coach is going to tell you that the fitter that you get relative to the event you're trying to achieve, like the death ride, the more the pain is going to be tolerable when you do it. If you go in unprepared, it's a completely different story. We just have a saying in cycling and endurance sports: the fitter you are, the more you can suffer. And so it's literally that simple. But for me as a coach, it's to try to understand literally where each one of my athletes is coming from, so I can help coach them through that.
Oh, that's great. So, of course, the goal is to stay fit. And then a huge part of this, obviously, is nutrition. Drink plenty of water, drink right, eat right, and all of those types of things.
That's right.
So if someone is on a training regimen, what do you normally recommend for an athlete as far as their nutrition and water intake?
That's another good question. So when we're talking to athletes and we're working with them, we basically break the nutrition into two components. There's the life nutrition, like everyday meals, how you eat, and so on and so forth, right? And then there's the sport, or on bike, or if you're a triathlete, the running, and so on and so forth, and the nutrition that we're doing there. Well, first of all, no surprises. Everybody has a different nutritional plan. Everybody responds differently to the amount of fuel they're putting into their system, what type of fuel it is, when to do it, when not to do it, and so on and so forth. I also like to apply a little science to it, because I have a method at my office using what we call a metabolic cart, which measures your gas exchanges, the amount of oxygen you're using and the amount of CO2 you're blowing out, that can help fine tune what types of calories you need, how much you need, and when you need them. And so it's always good to sort of blend a little art and discussion with a little bit of science, right? We don't want to go all one way. We don't want to guess. We want to experiment and make sure that we're doing the right things, but we also want to bring some of the science in and use both of them to help coach and counsel athletes and what the best to do, whether just drinking water or drinking Gatorade or drinking whatever they drink, or they're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or Cliff Bars. It's all about trying things, figuring out when, where, and what.
And then my last question is in regards to sleep. I just recently got an Aura ring that monitors my sleep. And of course, sleep is extremely important. I'm realizing that now as I'm getting older,
Right.
it's more and more important to get a good solid amount of sleep. So let's talk about sleep foundationally, how important. And then what about like the night before an event? Because sometimes, like the night before the death ride, I don't sleep that well. Is
Yeah.
that a factor on my on how well I will do
Right.
that day?
Yeah. So I have a good input on that. So you're absolutely right. Sleep is by far numero uno when it comes to recovery. Numero uno by far. You can read as many articles, you can read as many books, but what it comes down to is good sleep. I'd rather have good sleep and nothing else than no sleep and everything else. No question. And so I think, again, with each athlete being different, I've known athletes that could sleep in the middle of Grand Central Station at noon, right in the middle of the day. I have other athletes that have a difficult time sleeping. And so we have to figure out what's best for them to help them do that. I think that's, there's a lot of ways to go about doing that and how severe it is, whether it's a clinic or getting medical advice or whatever, to try to help figure out. So no question, you're dead on with that, with the sleep is the most important. And as we get older, we definitely need it more. I find the same thing. Two, from the night before, it's an interesting question. Back when I was in high school, I remember my track coach. We were sitting there the week before a big event. And I remember he sat there and he talked to all of us and he goes, this is a week before. He goes, I don't care how much sleep you get the night before, just make sure you get sleep the week before. And he was so right to this day in that a better sleep program to generally get you fitter, recover, have a rested mind, which is huge, is more important than the day or the night before. Some people have no problem. Other people arrive late at their destination. They're nervous. They're jittery. I'd say the more important thing is about the sleep that's happening the week and while the whole training program is going on.
Oh, man, those are wise words of wisdom. So, hey, Bruce, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. They can go to my website at athleticamps.com and contact me that way. They can send me an email, which I see is going on the screen, or give me a call anytime, any place. I would love to talk about what your goals are and helping you achieve them like you and I do.
Well, awesome. Bruce Hendler from Athleticamps. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good day.
And we'll see you soon. Okay, Tom?
Okay, we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.